Hey guys, so today I wanted to share with you how we filter our off-grid rainwater catchment system. Power and water are two of the main things that you have to think about if you're doing the off-grid life. And here in Hawaii, where we are in Hawaii, we get a lot of rainwater. And drilling for water here is really crazy because the ground is like rock hard from all the lava flows, and so it's super expensive, and also where we are the water would be kind of brackish, so the best way to do it is rainwater catchment. I feel like it just causes us to be so aware and conscious of weather, and that's same with our solar system. It's like being off grid, you're constantly aware of like how much sun we're getting, how much rain we're getting, the days are getting longer, the days are getting shorter, being conscious of water use, which I just love. I think it's so amazing being connected to the elements like that. So we have a rainwater catchment system. We collect the rainwater from the roofs of both of our bathhouse and our main home, and then the water goes into our water tank. We have a really big water tank. I got a 14,000 gallon water tank, which is pretty big for this area. A lot of people either have maybe like a 10,000 gallon metal tank like ours, or they have these sort of sealed plastic water tanks that cost a lot more money, but you do get the benefit of them being like sealed. But those are more like 4,000 gallons. So I came from Northern California and super dry, long summers, getting worse and worse every year. And I hate water scarcity. To me, that's like water is number one that I think about. So I just wanted an abundance of water, and that is what we have. So we had the worst drought that I've seen here, and that really I think we've had for even the old time folks this summer. And our water tank was like, we had probably 10,000 gallons of water. Then it was just a matter of watering. So get a big tank, in my opinion. I don't want to mess around with that. I want to know that there's abundance of water when we need it. And so once a month we go through and we treat our water tank with bleach and we change our filters. Sometimes I'll add baking soda. When I first started, I would test the pH of the water. That's like what professional water folks will do. If you're like hiring someone, they're gonna test the pH and then they're gonna like adjust it with the baking soda, and then they add the certain amount of bleach. In the beginning I was really into this, and then time goes on and I'm just like, fuck it, I don't know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I always like to add bleach. Sometimes every few months, like maybe every 6 months, I add a little bit of extra bleach to do like just a big cleanse of our tank. And then we've done this ourselves, but the last time we hired someone to just go in and do a big deep clean of the tank. So they go in there with like a vacuum and they kind of suck up any kind of sediment. Sediment will happen naturally. We do have a cover on our tank, so things aren't like falling into it, but just naturally from collecting rainwater that happens. And just to be, some of the things I like to do is just like once a month as I'm going in there and treating with bleach, I'm opening up the cover and just looking in the tank, because there are like horror stories of gross stuff going into the tanks, like animals. And I don't want to fuck around with any of that. So I go in and I look and I make sure we keep all the vegetation around our tank really minimal to reduce critters and slugs. I think that's so important, especially because our tank isn't sealed. It just has like a black mesh cover on it that's held together with string. So yeah, I also want to just say, like, in the beginning, this was super intimidating, right? Like, you really want clean water. It's super important. We do drink our water. We have a 0.5 micron filter at our kitchen sink, and that's where our drinking water comes from. So I was really intimidated by this process in the beginning. I've taken this on. I feel like as a couple, Roy kind of takes on so many of the traditional masculine things, fixing stuff, big jobs. And so like I try to take on what I can. And to me, water, I was like, I got this. And so I do it every month. And it's pretty straightforward, as you'll see. You just need to have like an awareness of it and just try it out and have a system in place and have the right filters. And yeah, and because of this, we are able to be off grid. We are independent of water systems. When the power goes out, we have water, we have solar. I love it. And yeah, to me, that's like absolute freedom. So this is how we do it. So this is sort of what a rainwater catchment system looks like, which is there's a gutter on our bathhouse, and this is the pipe that goes into the water tank. And then we have a metal tank that has this black cover on top, so it's easy to access. and it's 14,000 gallons. And then a lot of folks here also have these closed plastic tanks, but they cost a lot more money. So this is the first part of the filter that I clean. And this is sort of like the first sediment filter. I find what happens is it just gets covered in algae from the sun. And so our water guy told us that we could just paint it, but I just keep it as is and I just clean it once a month. I'll show you how we do it. And so this is our pump house. So this has our water pump in it and then the main filters. And here's our tank. So here's the first filter that I clean, which is kind of like a basic sediment filter. About once a month, this starts to just look like a little green. And so I'll show you, I take it apart and I soak it in bleach. And then over here are the filters that probably more people are used to seeing. So here we have first, this is a 20 micron filter on the left, and then the next one is a 5 micron filter. And this is my really high-tech way of keeping track of when I change the filters. And then in the kitchen, we have a 0.5 micron filter, which allows us to drink the water. So the first thing I do is I unplug the water pump. This is 28 ounces of bleach, which is the recommended amount of bleach. You do 2 ounces per 1,000 gallons, and our water tank is 14,000 gallons, and it's about full right now because it's been raining. So this is 28 ounces of bleach with water, and I pour it in our water tank, and I let our hose go to kind of stir it around a bit, maybe just for like a couple of minutes. And then that's the first step that I do. Okay, so I've turned the inlet water off here. The water pump is unplugged. And then I turn that on to let just like a little bit of the pressure out. And then I take this filter off. So I've taken that filter off, and then I just soak it in this bleach water, and I get a toothbrush and I kind of scrub it all. This gets kind of gross and algae. You can get inside of it and all around. Same with this. Sometimes there's algae like that, which is gross, I know, but I get in there with the toothbrush and give it a good scrub too. And then once that's all clean, I put it back on here. Okay, so that filter is all clean. I put it on, I shut off this water, I open this up, and then I kind of open this a few times, and you can kind of see there's like bubbles. And I just open and kind of let a lot of the bubbles come out. And then once most of the bubbles, the air bubbles have come out, I go over here, and then I do the other sediment filters. So you close off both the water coming in and the water going out. And then you take each of these ones off and you replace it. As a reminder, this is a 20 micron filter, which is like a white filter. And then this is the 5 micron carbon filter. So the 20 micron we replace every month, and the 5 micron carbon pretty much every 3 months, but the good way to tell if that needs to get replaced is if the water flow is just like slowing down, and then I know I need to come in here and change that carbon filter. So I'm gonna do that next. Okay, so I just put in the 2 new filters, and so what you wanna do is you wanna open the water going in, not the one going out yet, and you push these little buttons. And that's just pure water coming out, not air, so I'm like, oh, that one's good. The second one, you can kind of hear it, see? So you want to keep pressing that until it's just water coming out and not air bubbles, ideally. Otherwise, you end up with a lot of water bubbles in your line. So that's good. And then you open up this one. And then we also have a 0.5 micron filter at our kitchen sink for drinking water, but that I change like every 6 months. So this is our little system. Oh, and then we go and we plug the pump back in. And that is how we treat and filter our rainwater catchment.